New Delhi, you're watching DD India, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. North Korea's Kim Jong-un inspects cruise missile test just as South Korea and the United States kick off annual military drills on Monday. Wildfires in Canada continue to intensify. Evacuations double in British Columbia, with the armed forces deployed in many areas. And in sports, India beat Ireland by 33 runs to win the second T20 Cricket International and take an unassailable 2-0 lead in the three-match series. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has overseen a strategic cruise missile test ahead of the start of joint military drills between South Korea and the United States. State-run news agency KCNA reported that Kim inspected one of his fleets in the East Sea, also known as the Sea of Japan. Few details were given, but the missiles reportedly rapidly hit target without error. KCNA says the aim was to test the missile system and assess sailors' capabilities in a real war scenario. Meanwhile, South Korea and the United States are scheduled to commence major exercises on Monday to strengthen their joint preparedness in the face of North Korea's advancing military and cyber threats. The allies' annual Ulchi Freedom Shield exercise will last until August 31st and involve over 58,000 South Korean and US troops. This year's exercise will feature a total of 30 joint field training drills by the allies, 5 more than the Freedom Shield exercise held in March this year. Meanwhile, South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol has stressed that trilateral cooperation with the United States and Japan will grow stronger if North Korean threats increase. Yoon Suk-yeol said that the three-way partnership would develop into a strong framework to promote regional peace. He mentioned that the AUKUS Pact between the US, UK and Australia and the Quad grouping of the US, Japan, India and Australia will play a supporting role for prosperity in the region.
Think about the timing. At the moment, America and South Korea and some other countries are about to launch or have just launched their biggest war games for a long time. It's called Operation Ulchi Freedom Shield, named after an ancient South Korean general. So this is a good time for Kim Jong-un to show to his own public that he is prepared, or North Korea is prepared, to fight against the enemy, South Korea, Japan and America. Now, these are strategic cruise missiles, apparently, so this is the type of thing that could end a war rather than be used tactically in a battle. So these are things that could destroy towns and so on if they work. Now, the North Koreans have said that the missiles hit their target. The South Korean defense military intelligence has been skeptical, and they say that the claims by the North Koreans are exaggerated. This summit has happened, and it's happy that these exercises are going on. Perhaps in the future, if the trilateral, as it's called, the three-way talks and cooperation continues, who knows, you might even see Japanese troops taking part. That would be a red flag to the North Koreans. And of course, it would be very difficult at the moment with the Japanese constitution, which forbids or heavily restricts military action by Japan. But at the moment, America and South Korea seem to be working together. They seem to be working together their best for a while. And it's good that South Korea and Japan, who basically have a bad blood going between them. It's a nasty colonial relationship going back hundreds of years. And more recently, in the 20th century, Japan was a rather brutal colonial power in Korea. So getting those two sides to talk to each other more and to cooperate militarily more and share data, I think is definitely an achievement by the American President Joe Biden.
On to Africa now. Leaders from Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa are seeking to develop deeper trade and economic ties. The BRICS bloc of emerging world economies is holding its 15th summit in Johannesburg, South Africa from August 22nd, that's tomorrow, to August 24th. Here's a look at the key focus areas at this year's 15th BRICS Summit.
This is the first time BRICS leaders are gathering since the COVID-19 pandemic hit. But the summit will be marked by the absence of Russian President Vladimir Putin, who is participating remotely. The summit is expected to cover a wide range of issues. One of the key topics is the expansion of the group, as 40 countries have shown interest.
Them coming to the table with us will only strengthen the South-to-South cooperation that we need for a sustainable future. So I'm absolutely delighted that the countries have come knocking at the BRICS doors rather than us having to go to them.
BRICS members will also discuss cross-border trade in local currencies to reduce dependency on the US dollar. Altogether, the 5 member nations account for more than 40% of the world's population, and their combined GDP is more than 26% of the global economy.
The BRICS mechanism has the potential to become a crucial organization in determining global development. Its potential lies not only in the economy, but also in the various initiatives it promotes. In my view, the BRICS countries are ready to set a reform agenda for the current global economic order.
Promoting settlement in local currencies is a big issue that will be discussed during the summit. BRICS has emphasized financial cooperation since its establishment and has promoted the reform of the World Bank and IMF, as well as establishing the new development bank. BRICS opposes the hegemony of the US dollar and pursues the reform of the global financial system.
Experts say the summit is a major opportunity for BRICS leaders to counter Western dominance around the world. Bureau Report, DD India.
The Indian diaspora in Johannesburg is excited to welcome Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who will be visiting the city for the upcoming BRICS Summit.
I give a warm welcome to our Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji to the Rainbow Nation in South Africa. We are so proud of your leadership, and you are such an inspiring leader.
I am sure India will become superpower in this world. All citizens of India who has got roots in India should be proud of welcoming our Prime Minister to South Africa.
We are also very grateful to the Prime Minister of India for visiting South Africa. He is a role model of the world and he inspires everyone in this world. We hope he has an excellent stay and successful trip in South Africa.
South African cricketers are also not behind in welcoming the Indian Prime Minister. South African cricket coach and former cricketer Gary Kirsten extended wishes for the upcoming BRICS Summit.
Dear Prime Minister Modi, it is my privilege to welcome you and your delegation to South Africa. I've been very fortunate to spend lots of time in India during my playing and my coaching career. I also have many fond memories during my time coaching Team India and was always so grateful for the support of the proud Indian people. This year will also be very special for global cricket when the World Cup returns to India. It promises to be another great sporting spectacle and no doubt will be enjoyed by the millions of cricket fans throughout India. Finally, I wish you and all the global leaders the very best for the upcoming BRICS Summit.
In the series, South African cricketer John T. Rhodes also expressed happiness for the upcoming Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Johannesburg. Listen in.
Namaskar, Modi ji. I have just spent 2 wonderful weeks with my family in incredible India, and now it's our turn to welcome you to South Africa. So, Sawubona, Dumela, Huchanet. I really hope you are well, sir. Welcome for the BRICS conference, and we know as South Africans that you have a massive role on the international political and economic scene, and we thank you for your inputs.
Next news from Niger. Niger's coup leader has promised to return the nation to civilian rule within 3 years. General Tiani made the announcement as he met mediators from the West African regional bloc in Niamey. The junta head warned that any intervention by foreign forces would not be a walk in the park. ECOWAS has reportedly rejected the 3-year time frame. It said the bloc is not accepting any prolonged transition and has previously threatened the possibility of military intervention. Next updates from the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Denmark and the Netherlands have agreed to send F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. We have a report.
The offer came 2 days after the Netherlands and Denmark said the US had authorized the country to deliver American-made F-16s to Ukraine. Zelensky traveled to both countries to finalize the delivery deal. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte, meeting with Zelensky at a Dutch Airways, said the planes would be delivered once specified conditions are met.
We can announce that the Netherlands and Denmark commit to transfer F-16 aircraft to Ukraine and the Ukrainian Air Force, in close cooperation with the United States and other partners, once the conditions for such a transfer have been met.
Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said Denmark will supply Ukraine with 19 F-16 fighters during a joint news conference with Ukrainian President at the Skydrupt Airways in Denmark.
We announced that we will donate 19 F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. Together with the Netherlands, we are the first country to make a solid and concrete commitment to donate Western fighter jets. And hopefully others will follow now.
Ukrainian officials have long asked for the advanced warplanes since the beginning of its war with Russia, which begins in February 2022. Zelensky calls the deal a breakthrough moment, but training for Ukrainian pilots could take months. The first delivery of Danish F-16s is expected around the start of the new year. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay reports.
Meanwhile, Moscow has accused Ukraine of terrorism after a fresh wave of drone attacks in Russian regions. Ukrainian drone strikes, both on border regions and on the Russian capital, have become increasingly common in recent months. Russian Foreign Ministry has said that in that context, the goals of the special military operation in Ukraine have become the priority of the country's foreign policy. Dasha Chernyshova is in Moscow with more.
Moscow says Ukraine attempted to attack at least 4 Russian regions on Sunday. 5 people got injured in Kursk as a drone hit a railway station that triggered a fire. In Rostov, the governor says no injuries or damage has been reported after Ukrainian kamikaze drones were intercepted by the Russian air defense systems. 2 of Moscow's airports were forced to halt air traffic as a result of an attempted drone attack. The Ministry of Defense says drones were jammed and crashed in an unpopulated area. In Belgorod region that borders Ukraine and is most often attacked by the Ukrainian armed forces, air defenses destroyed 12 airborne targets. We also have heard from the Russian Ministry of Defense saying that another drone attack was thwarted over the Belgorod region, with Russian air defenses shooting down plane-type unmanned aerial vehicles. These attacks are described in Russia as acts of terrorism. The Russian Foreign Ministry condemned those attacks against the civilian infrastructure. Commenting on what happened in Kursk, spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said the attack against the railway station makes the task of denazification of Ukraine and demilitarization of Ukraine an absolute priority for Russia's foreign policy. Dasha Chernyshova in Moscow, reporting for DD India.
Let's next take a look at other stories making news across the world. Guatemalan anti-corruption crusader Bernardo Arevalo was voted in as president, according to preliminary results. Many voters hope this marks an end to years of rule dogged by allegations of graft and authoritarianism. Arevalo had a 58% to 37% lead over former First Lady Sandra Torres, with 99% of votes counted. In Ecuador's presidential race, leftist candidate Luisa Gonzalez and her surprise challenger Daniel Noboa beat out 6 other rivals in a first round of voting in a contest clouded by the murder of anti-corruption candidate Fernando Villavicencio. Gonzalez had about 33% of the vote and Noboa 24%, with more than 70% of the ballots counted. The two candidates will face each other in a second round on October 15th. South African country Zimbabwe is set to hold its general election on August 23rd. A dozen candidates are vying for the presidency, but the main contest is between incumbent Emmerson Mnangagwa and leading opposition candidate Nelson Chamisa. Political analysts say young voters who have never known a prosperous Zimbabwe could play a significant role in the election. Thailand's Pheu Thai party will announce on Monday a 14-party alliance seeking to form the next government. This is ahead of the week's parliamentary vote to decide a new premier. The 14 parties, which include those two that are allied with the military, have pledged to back Pheu Thai's candidate Sretha Thavisin. You're watching DD India Live, still to come on the show. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida visits Fukushima nuclear power plant. The announcement of water release likely on Tuesday. Raging wildfires across the globe. Spain, Canada and the United States badly hit. US President to head to Hawaii to view damage from the Maui wildfire. The second and final adjustment to Chandrayaan-3's lunar lander successfully carried out. Touchdown expected on August 23rd. Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida has visited the facility where water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant was being treated to remove radioactive elements. Kishida has also visited a lookout point near the location where treated water would be released into the Pacific Ocean. Japan says it will remove most radioactive elements from the water except for tritium, a hydrogen isotope that must be diluted because of its difficulty to be filtered out. Speaking to representatives of the plant operated by Tokyo Electric Power Company TEPCO, Kishida emphasized that the long-term nature of the plant's decommissioning process.
Concerning the timing of the release into the sea, the full cabinet will make a decision based on the status of safety works and countermeasures against rumors, and I will refrain from giving a specific timing at this point.
Chris Gilbert gives us more details on the story from Tokyo.
Yeah, so this has been a long time coming. TEPCO has been planning this water release for 10 years. The disaster, of course, was 12 years ago, and the water has to go somewhere, and the discharge is the solution that they've come up with. It was expected to begin in the spring a few months ago, but was delayed for construction reasons and to get the final report from the IAEA, the International Atomic Watchdog, which the government here requested. And as we know, last month, the IAEA effectively said that it meets international safety standards and regulatory standards. Reports just a couple of weeks ago from newspapers here in Japan suggested that the water release after all this time may finally actually begin towards the end of this month or the start of September, but they wanted to wait until after the trilateral summit with South Korea and the United States, which just happened at Camp David over the weekend. Now, straight back from that, here we see the Prime Minister Fumio Kishida straight up to Fukushima, meeting, as you mentioned, with TEPCO officials yesterday at the Daiichi nuclear site. He's expected to be discussing this with Cabinet, so suggestions are that a release date may be imminent.
Moving on, Cambodia's King Norodom Sihamoni inaugurated the country's new parliament following the July general election. Outgoing Prime Minister Hun Sen, Parliament Chairman Heng Samrin, Senate President Se Shum and incoming Prime Minister Hun Ma-ne greeted the king outside the Parliament building before moving into the chamber. The Parliament will vote to approve the new government cabinet members on August 22nd, and the new government members will attend the swearing-in ceremony on Tuesday evening at the Royal Palace. Canada is sending armed forces to tackle fast-spreading wildfires. In British Columbia, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's announcement comes as the western province deals with the flames that have put more than 35,000 people under evacuation order. British Columbia declared a state of emergency and imposed a ban of non-essential travel to free up accommodations for evacuees and firefighters. West Kelowna Fire Chief said he saw some hope after battling epic fires for the past 4 days. He said conditions have improved, helping firefighters to put boots on the ground and dump water to douse the flames. Government officials urged residents living in evacuation order zones to leave immediately.
As Canadians are seeing in the horrific images they see of devastation and fear of residents in Northwest Territories and in BC, it is an extraordinarily serious situation. The federal government is continuing to step up. We're there with Canadian Armed Forces resources. We're active in coordinating with regional and local governments to make sure people are safe, make sure we're doing everything to protect lives and property. But there's a lot more to do, and we're going to continue to stay focused on that.
US President Joe Biden will travel to the Hawaiian island of Maui on Monday to view the damage from wildfires that killed more than 100 people. The president will be accompanied by First Lady Jill Biden, as they are expected to meet with first responders and survivors, as well as local officials to assess the extensive damage to the island. More than 2,000 homes were destroyed in one of the deadliest wildfires to have hit the US in over a century. Tropical storm Hillary has made landfall in Southern California, where authorities have warned of severe flooding risks from unusual torrential rains. It's the first tropical storm to hit the state since 1939. DD India correspondent Ira Spitzer reports from San Francisco.
Authorities in California, and especially Southern California, are doing everything they can to try and make the public aware of the serious potential danger from Tropical Storm Hillary. And just to give a sense of how unusual this type of storm is, it's been more than 80 years since a tropical storm made landfall in California because of the cool water temperatures in the Pacific Ocean. It's very unusual to have a storm that actually makes it this far in the Pacific. But that is the situation that has happened because of some slightly warmer water brought on by the El Nino weather pattern, as well as some unusual pressure systems. So Hillary was downgraded from a hurricane to a tropical storm when it initially made landfall in Mexico. But the flood risk is very high, according to the authorities. And some of the reasons for that are in the desert areas, especially of Southern California. These are areas that are not accustomed to getting much rain at all. So the ground is not easily able to absorb that kind of water. And for example, in Death Valley National Park, there are forecasts that there could be as much rain in 24 hours in Death Valley as they usually would expect in an entire year. So when you have that sort of torrential rain in these dry areas, flash flooding becomes very dangerous very quickly. So authorities distributing sandbags to residents in a number of counties have made emergency declarations and have certainly urged residents to stay home, not to tempt fate and try and drive around, which really can be especially dangerous when you have standing water on the road. So that is the fear in Southern California right now. And just as things became, as the storm was approaching, there was actually an earthquake, a 5.0 magnitude earthquake in the town of Ojai, just an hour north of Los Angeles. So residents already on edge from the arrival of this tropical storm now had to deal with an earthquake. Now, there have been no reports of serious damage from that earthquake so far, but now the big danger is the possibility of damage to both potentially to property as well as to the population from the flooding, which is to be expected from Tropical Storm Hilary. Ira Spitzer reporting in San Francisco for DD India.
In news from India now, the Indian Supreme Court on Monday said that 3 reports have been submitted by the committee headed by former Justice Geeta Mittal in the Manipur violence case. The court has asked the Solicitor General to go through the report and sought his assistance in the case. The committee looked into the investigation, relief and remedial measures, compensation and rehabilitation in Manipur, which has been in the grip of ethnic violence for the last 3 months. Indian spacecraft Chandrayaan-3 is inching closer to the moon. The soft landing on the South Pole is scheduled around 18:04 hours Indian Standard Time on August 23rd. The Indian Space Agency, ISRO, said that the module would undergo internal checks and await sunrise at the designated landing site. India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman chaired the session on the role of her ministries in the Amrit Kal, that is the golden period leading to the centenary year of Indian independence, in the Kevadia city of Indian state of Gujarat. A free and frank discussion was held with 100+ senior officers on how to reorient to achieve these Amrit Kal goals by embracing the Panch Prana, 5 promises, as envisioned by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And in sports news now, India beat Ireland by 33 runs to win the second T20 cricket match. With this win, India take an unassailable 2-0 lead in the 3-match series. More in this report.
Jasprit Bumrah-led side went up in the 3-match T20 series. India dashed out an all-rounder performance to beat Ireland by 33 runs in second T20 international on Sunday. Batting first, India piled a challenging 185 scores in 20 overs. Rituraj Gaikwad led India's charge with the bat, scoring 58 runs off 43 balls, and also a crucial 71-run partnership with Sanju Samson, as India lost Yashasvi Jaiswal and Tilak Verma inside the power play. Benjamin White dismissed Sanju Samson for 40 runs. Rinku Singh and Shivam Dube then chipped in with an explosive cameos, with the pair smashing 42 runs in the final 2 overs. Rinku scored 38 runs, while Shivam Dube returned unbeaten with 22 runs. In response, Ireland got off a terrible start, almost similar to India. Prasidh Krishna injected 2 blows in the first over, and Ravi Bishnoi made it 3 in the final over of the power play. Apart from Andrew, no other Irish batter could withstand the Indian bowling attack. He scored 72 runs off 51 balls. The skipper, alongside with Krishna and Bishnoi, finished with 2 wickets each, as Ireland could only manage 152 for the loss of 8 wickets. With the match to spare, India aims to make a clean sweep in the 3-match T20 series. Sports Desk, DD India.
So that's all in this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, Instagram and YouTube at DD India Live. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.